Hello, Calculus, and welcome to your second lesson. Okay, today we're going to be talking about factoring and going over your objectives. So you should have your R2 notes in front of you and ready to go. All right, our objectives for today are factoring out the greatest common factor, factoring a trinomial, so you're right here, and special factorization. So a few that you might not remember, but you've probably done before. So when we go through, we got to find the greatest common factor for every term. That's the first step. You always take that out. You factor it out and you're done. So this first part, I just want you to do that. So pause and factor out what the greatest common factor is. Let's see what you got. Okay, when you did this, you should have looked at the numbers first. So you should have had the 4 and the 2. And you said, hey, 2 was the highest. Then you should have looked at your W. So we had W, 5 W's and 2 W's. You should have taken out a W squared. Now, when you take out a 2w squared, the remaining, so you're actually dividing here, by 2w squared gives you a 2w cubed. Now, I'm hoping when you did this and you did your division, you had the plus 1, and no one forgot that because that's very important. When you check your answer, you should be able to take the 2w squared, distribute it through, and get the 4w to the 5th, but then you must also have the 2w squared when you are finished. All right, factoring trinomials. Let's see what you remember. Some of these are fairly simple. Some of them are a little more complicated. So we'll see what you all have. Now, when you look through here, we have type 1. So there's actually no work to do. I can look at x squared and -5. Since this is a 1, this makes this very, very easy right here. So I just look at the factors of -5. That will give me -4. Well, I know that -5 plus 1 equals my -4. So those are my factors since there's a 1 here and I do not have to worry about that. So that's just x minus 5 and x plus 1, and you are finished with that factorization. Now try yours. All right, if you recognized that the 3 and the 4 add to the 7, you were done. If you did not, this one here was a little more complicated. So now I know some of you will say, I've never seen this before. I know that's not true. It's probably just never seen here. You've done it in 4 terms instead of 3. When you do this, you take the 3x squared and the 4y squared and you multiply them. Okay, that gives you 12x squared y squared. Now you look for factors of a 12x squared y squared that will add to 7. Well, the factors of 12 that add to 7 are 3 and 4. So that's really 3xy plus 4xy. Because when you multiply the 3xy times the 4xy, you get the 12, the x squared, and then the y squared, which gives us this term here. When I add them, I will get my middle term. So now you're using substitution. So you take the 3x squared, your first term, you're just bringing this down. You're going to put these two in the middle. You're going to substitute their value in for the 7xy. So you get plus 3xy plus 4xy, because that is the same as your 7xy, plus, now you're going to bring down your last term here. So we have not changed my problem. I have just substituted in a different value for the 7xy. Now you're going to use your grouping method. I know it's been a while, but you can do this. You take the first two and the last two and you group them together. The first two have what in common? A 3x. So you take out the 3x, leaving this with x plus y. Now you do the same thing on your last set. What do they have in common? Oh, 4y. So you take out your 4y, leaving you with x plus y. Now you actually have two terms here because this is multiplication right through here. So what does this term and this term have in common? And they both have an xy. So we get to factor that out. So we take out the xy. So since I'm dividing by xy, he's gone here, leaving me with the 3x. And if I'm taking out the xy here, I am left with a plus 4y. And that is now factored. I hope you did well. All right, now let's continue. We have a little bit to get through today. All right, I would like you to try these before you listen to me. So pause and try these too, and let's see how you do. All right, this one here, the 12 and the 10 do not give you 23. So now you're trying to find factors. So we're going to do it the long way, just in case you didn't see this. So you've got it 120, correct? 120x squared. And I'm trying to get to 23x squared. Now you got to be careful with your signs because you got a positive, you're trying to get to negative, so you don't know they'll both be negative. Now, if you don't see it, you can always start at the beginning. So 1 and 120. Well, that adds up to 121. Not real good. 2 and 60. Well, I am still at 62. Still ridiculously high. So I know 3 and 4 are probably not going to do it because that's 30 and 40. So let's skip down to 5. So 5 times 24. Okay, I'm getting closer because I'm at 29. I need 23. Well, what does 6 give me? 6 and 20. That gives me 26. A little closer, but not there. 7 doesn't go in, so let's try 8. 8 and 15. Oh, there it is. 8 and 15 gives me 23, but I have a negative here I must deal with. So if I do a negative 8 and a negative 15, I get my 23, but I must check to make sure that gives me still a positive 120, which it does, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And technically, this is 8x and 15x, because I need that x squared there. So now I'm going to use this and substitute it in for that negative 23. So now you have 12x squared minus 8x minus 15x plus 10. Put this in here on purpose to watch with this negative right here so you're careful. So you group the first two, but when you're grouping the last two, you're not really grouping a 15x, you're grouping a negative 15x. So make that plus a negative so you do not lose your signs. Now you're back to just taking out what they have in common, which is your 4x, giving you 3x minus 2. And over here you have a negative 5 to take out. And that also gives us 3x minus 2. Again, now you're down to two things because it's multiplied. What do these two have in common? And the answer is they have the factor of 3x minus 2 in common. So we factor that out, leaving us with 4x minus 5. And now that is factored. Okay, the next one. Again, 9 and 8 do not give you 14. So we have to do a little work here. 8 times 9 is a negative 72. That's very important. X squared. So factors of 72 that give us 14. Well, let's think about this. 1's not going to work. 2's not going to work. 3 might be close, so let's try that. That's 3 and 24. I know I need this positive, so the 24 is the positive, the 3 is the negative, but that gives me 21. Not good. All right, let's try 4. 4 and 18. Again, the 18 has to be the positive or the negative. There's my 14, which is what I need. Remember, these are still both x's. So now I need to factor. I'm going to bring down my first term. So that's my 9x squared. I'm going to bring down my last term, which is my negative 8. Now you're going to group. First two, last two. And what do they have? Let's make that one there so you can see a little better. What does 9x squared and 4x have in common? I did this on purpose so you could see that they don't always have to match real well. The only thing those two have in common is an x. So I bring out the x and I have 9x minus 4. My second set, what does it have in common? Really only a 2. So I bring out a 2, but I still get 9x minus 4. So even though they weren't pretty to begin with, my factors still match. So I can factor out my common factor, which is a 9x minus 4, leaving me with an x plus 2. And now that's completely factored. I hope you did a great job. All right, I would like you to try this one again without me. There's a hint that it's a combination, so pause and give it a shot. What I wanted you to see here is that they have a 2 in common. So you factor out the 2 before you start the problem. That gives me an x squared plus a 4x plus a 3. Well, that made my life very easy because the factors of 3 that are 4 are 1 and 3. So this is just x plus 3, x plus 1, and don't forget the 2 that you factored out. And that's your final answer. See, life isn't so bad. Okay, special factors. These are a few that you may not remember. I think you do remember the first ones, like the x squared minus y squared. That's a difference of squares. Remember, that's x plus y, x minus y. Perfect are perfect squares. So this is a square and this is a square, and the middle is double the square root of the first and the second. That's a perfect square. Difference of cubes. This is the one that no one ever remembers. If this is the first and they're both a difference of cubes or the sum of cubes, it doesn't really matter. If they're both perfect cubes, it's the cube of the first, same sign, cube of the second, then it's the square of the first plus them multiplied together plus the square of the last. The only thing that's different in the sum is these signs change here. This is plus, so this is plus, and you must alternate in order to get rid of the middle terms. All right, let's go here. 64x squared minus 49x to the fourth. I'm sorry, fourth is both. So that's actually a difference of squares because these are both perfect squares. That will give me 8x squared minus 7y squared times 8x squared plus 7y squared. It doesn't matter which order you write those factors. If you flip the plus and the minus around, you get the same answer. Okay, next one. So I know it's not a difference of squares. It's definitely not a cube. So the only thing it could possibly be is this perfect square. So let's check. Okay, 4x squared, is that a perfect square? The answer is yes. So that's 2x. Is 9 a perfect square? The answer is yes, it's 3. Now we have to check if I can get that middle term. To do that, I have to multiply these together, which gives me 6x. And if I double that, do I get the middle term? Well, 6 times 2 is definitely 12, so this is a perfect square trinomial. It factors into the first square plus the last square, quantity squared, which was nice. Okay, next one. So we're looking at it, and it's definitely not a perfect square, so we're kind of hoping it's a cube. Maybe if this thing will, oh, there it goes. Hang on. I have a new program here, and sometimes that help likes me and sometimes it doesn't. All right, let's look at this guy. So now we've got h cubed minus 8. Are they both cubes? And the answer is yes. H cubed is h, and the cube root of 8 is 2, so minus 2. Now you're following your formula above. So it says we square the first, h squared. Now, you got to be careful right here. This is minus. What do I do with that sign? So if you don't remember, you go back here. So if this is minus, but then remember this term must be positive. It's got to be opposite in order to get the middle terms to go away. If you can't remember, make sure you check your answer when you are finished. So it's h minus 2 times h squared minus 2h, multiply them together, plus the last term squared, which would be 4. I hope you did well on that. Next one, p4 minus 16, difference of squares again. So we have p squared minus 4 and p squared plus 4. The problem right here is most people stop and it's not done. Because if you look here, you have again a difference of squares. So you have to do it again. So the difference of p squared minus 4 is p plus 2, p minus 2. But now I can't factor this one because it's not subtraction. That's actually prime by itself. So that's just p squared plus 4, and you are done at that point. Okay, pause and try yours, and let's see how you do. Okay, I hope you were listening because this is not subtraction, which means this one is prime. Okay, is this a difference of squares? Or a perfect square trinomial, I'm sorry. So 9x squared is 3x. 16 is 4. Multiply gives me 12x. Oops, sorry. Now let's double it. Does that work? 24, it does. So this is now 3x. Remember to always use that sign. Minus 4 quantity squared. All right, I got a cube. Is 125 a cube? I hope you said yes. So now that you got 125, we're going to practice this one here. So we've got x plus 5, because those are my perfect cubes. The cube root of x cubed is x. The cube root of 125 is 5. Now I square the first, which is x squared. Now I change this sign so the middle go away. Multiply these together, so that's 5x, plus the last one squared. So 5 squared is 25. And that's your difference of cubes. C4 minus 81, another difference of squares. So you got c squared minus 9, c squared plus 9. I hope you checked to see if you were done, because you were not. C squared minus 9 is a difference of squares. So we have c plus 3 and c minus 3. And remember, you can write those in any order. And the c squared plus 9 was prime, so that must be 11. All right, you're done with your second lesson. Make sure you get your homework done. Post any questions you have on the discussion board or help someone else with theirs. And don't forget to look at your accountability checks that are coming up tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye.